Hi guys, welcome to our second episode of Yeah Football. My name is Fito. I didn't say that in the last episode, which I thought was really funny because I was listening in and I didn't even mention my name even once. And I was like, I'll refer it over to my friend, and I never even said my name. But yeah, my name is Fito. This is my friend Mulad, and we are had this podcast, Yeah Football, where we talk about almost anything we want from football in general, whatever we discussing and happening back to back in the latest, from scores to news to anything else we think of really that we want to talk about of football in our own way. So, anything you want to say, Milad?
Hola, everyone. Hopefully, everyone's having a good week. And if you guys didn't listen to the first podcast, it was our first ever podcast. We talked a lot about multiple clubs. It was
Yep.
pretty good. And so here we are again. It's going to be a weekly podcast as well. So whatever platform you're listening
Every
to,
Monday
whether it be
morning.
YouTube or Spotify, it will be Monday morning. YouTube, Spotify, make sure you got notifications on. And hopefully you can, well, if you're walking the dog or in a car or something, listen to us and give your opinions as well.
Let us give you your motivation to keep watching football. So, if you think that everything's going into a smooth ride for this season, there is turmoil everywhere from different clubs, you know, and we're here to, from last episode, we're here to talk about a couple of things. Last time, we were referring to in the last episode that we would talk about how the competition is in Europe in terms of the big clubs in the world, right? And sometimes some of the big clubs have their own issues that they have to be dealt with. And how long is that going to take? Well, we're not exactly sure. So we're here to discuss about how Barcelona is facing a lot of financial problems that could disrupt them in the future. And I know, Milad, you were talking about we were talking about their TV rights. You said it was they're sold 30% of their TV rights recently.
Currently, it is at it was I think 15% about a month
15%.
ago. And then they just added an additional 10%. So they have sold a
Just
total of
ridiculous.
25% of their TV rights over the next 25 years for a lump sum total around 400 million. I don't know the exact figure, but it is around that price tag. Now, what they're banking on is that TV rights will continue to go
Hmm.
up and that it won't be that big of a deal that 15 years from now they only make 75% of their TV rights because they're just
Hmm.
banking on inflation and all that on
Right.
TV rights going up and all that stuff. Maybe even a super league. So that's their thinking, but it still if they weren't in financial trouble, they wouldn't be doing this. So
Right. I mean, if you look at Barcelona as a general as a club, they weren't ones normally typically to invest in sponsorships and other revenues of to increase their pockets in that sense because they weren't financially in problems in turmoil how we were talking about earlier. Uh, uh, but recently, over the last few years, it's just back to back issues with player transfers or within their own camps and who's in charge, the board. So there's a lot to dissect in certain ways. I really want to quickly talk about the recent transfers, uh, how this is going, because we're going to talk about a little of the two periods since this is technically now uh, Xavi Hernandez team brought to you by Laporta. So like we're just gonna discuss a little bit of that part right now. So I'm just gonna throw you a quick ones. Well, obviously you know them and I know them as well, but we're just gonna discuss them. In the winter transfer, it was Aubameyang, right? Came in a free transfer.
yeah,
You obviously already know.
yep.
Taroy, who came in on loan, now gone. Fernan Torres, Danny Alves, who's now departed, and Luke De Jong, also on loan. So we were already skeptical. I think we talked about we dipped in a little bit in the last episode how those characters are somewhat you think, okay, why do we lean into some of these if they're not really, for instance, Danny didn't really play for a while and Luke De Jong wasn't like seriously a contender to be a critical striker, and neither was Aubameyang. So we're looking at players who you would come into this transfer window, you were just looking for something to play that you could play at the time, you know. But anything that you want to say? Because like honestly, those type of players, and I think you've discussed it a little bit, are just like for what?
Yeah, so short-term signings, panic buys. I think that's kind of what
Right.
basically a club with no plan, which is surprising when it comes to Barca, but maybe it's not because this is what they've been doing for a good amount of time. But yeah, I mean, each one of them you could just name them off. I mean, Aubameyang at the time, I guess. I mean, he came in, he scored goals. But 6 months later, you sign Lewandowski, which we'll talk about. So what's the point of signing 33-year-old Aubameyang? It was an opportunity signing, of course, because
Hmm.
obviously Aubameyang fell out at Arsenal and Barca, were struggling to score goals and they were struggling at the time. Ansu Fati got hurt, and so they picked him up. But signing him makes no real difference in terms of what Barca is going to be a year from now or 2 years from now. So I didn't really understand that one. Luke De Jong again, don't really understand that one. Danny Alves actually, I'm fine with because he's a legend of the club. But then I read comments about him being upset how they don't treat their legends right, and so then he was just let go. So what's the point of that? And so yeah,
Now
it's just
Pumas.
yeah, all the signings are just short term signings, and that's the gist of it. So
Right.
that's basically it.
Yeah, and then we have this season so far, with Lewandowski, how you said, Rafinha, Christensen, and uh, Kisi. Is that how you say it? I always forget how you say his name. Kessie?
Kessie.
I'm gonna look it up next time because I don't want to keep saying it wrong. But those are the signings for this season. And while it's almost kind of contradicting from the first part, from the first transfer, how you said, the first one being very panicky, unsure, just picking players because they're open to the ability to play at the current time, which was in January, a tough time for Barcelona when they came back to being in second place, but overall not a great overjob place for the club. So you come into this transfer window trying to see if you could fix stuff for the future one. Do you think these signings are enough, or do you feel like there's something that you want to increase? Maybe in between the defense, midfield, because they have a lot of attacking force now. Is there other areas that you feel like maybe we should start recruiting from that end first?
Yeah. So there's so many sides we could talk about this. Do I even think they should have been making these signings? I don't know, but they took the loan or the not the loan, but they basically mortgaged their club and got the money in. And okay, so once you do that, you have all this money. Fine, let's go buy players. You have the pull of Barcelona. I mean, just ask Chelsea fans; they're probably ticked off beyond belief right now with how Barca stealing a lot of their targets. But then Chelsea, I think they just have targets everywhere. They don't really have a plan either with the new ownership. So we look at Barca, the Rafinha signing. Again, that was his dream move. They had that plan since March. Okay, I'm good with that.
Mm-hmm.
55 million plus add-ons to 65. Okay, that's fine by me. You have Ansu Fati. You have a lot of other players in those positions, but depth, no problem. Plus Ansu Fati's coming off a ACL injury, I think it was. So he's gonna have to take some time to get back to it. Um, Lewandowski's the big one. My only issue with that one is he's 34. So how many years are you going to get out of Lewandowski? So I think it can be pretty good for now, but they're still going to have to figure out more of a long-term solution there and what they want to do. And like, is it Kesse? I still can't pronounce his
I
name.
agree. We have to
I,
figure that out, but next
I
time.
I like that signing. I like some of the other. I'm not gonna
It's a good midfielder
yeah. I'm not
from
gonna
Milan.
like complain about a lot of the free transfer signings because they're free transfers. If you think they can help, that's fine by me. It's more they have a lot of talented youngsters now, and Gavi and Pedri and all these guys and Ansu Fati and all them. I'm a lot more worried about the back line, the back four specifically. I know they were rumored. Were they going to sign Marcus Alonso from Chelsea?
Yeah, and Aspilicueta probably as well. That's what it was just recently that Chelsea was complaining that Barcelona keep interfering, and the issue is, are they going to make these steps? We're talking about a club that's in $1.3 billion in debt, well, euros in debt, 1.4 in dollars. Or how much money and how much are we going to keep investing into these players, regardless if they're 1 year until contract ends or 2 years, like Marcos I think is. So
Yeah.
is it
So
enough?
I just saw both of them play tonight against Arsenal, and I was like, I thought they were both going to Barca, so I was a little bit
Mm-hmm.
confused. Both of them currently are in preseason tour Chelsea, and so they need left back cover for Jordi Alba. That's just that has to be done. I think Aspilicueta, I think he's a little bit past it, but again, it would be a free transfer signing basically. Not free transfer actually, but more not an expensive
Yeah,
signing.
yeah,
Okay, but this Jules Koundé signing between Chelsea and Barca is a big one because Barca do need center backs. They need some quality ball playing pacey center backs. Jules Koundé, that Chelsea basically thought they had it. It's changing day in day out. It looks like Koundé wants to go to Barca, and if that is the case, then if Barca just pay up the money, then he will be at Barca, which I think is a good signing. But yeah, like you said, they're 1.4 billion in debt, and the reason why it's a big deal that they're in debt like this at Barca, and it's people will mention like a Chelsea or a City or whatever, but Barca's not owned by one person. They can't bankroll
exactly.
like Chelsea could with Roman Abramovich. Even to a lesser extent, it's happening at Arsenal right now. The Cronkies are bankrolling, and Arsenal's in debt to KSE, but they're not going to ask for those things back. So when you're owned by one person or one enterprise, you can do that. Just like
Mm-hmm.
Manchester City can do it as well, and Newcastle can do it as well. But Barca's not like that. So when you are 1.4 billion in debt at Barca, that's a massive, massive thing. When will that get paid off? I don't probably not. Like I might be married with kids by the time it gets paid off. Like
It could be.
I might be a grandpa when time. I mean, who knows? That's more of the worry. So that's why all these signings I look at, I think Rafinha can be a really good player. Obviously, Lewandowski is one of the best number nines in the world. I think Jules Koundé would really help the center back option. I think Marcus Alonso would be good left back cover for Jordi Alba. And I think they would really improve their team with a really good young manager in Xavi. But there's just this underlying bigger picture behind it that worries me. And we've seen Barca mess up before to get in this mess. They lost their greatest player of all time because of this mess. I'm just worried about it. So that's kind of where I'm at with them. I don't know how they can kind of get out of this. When Real Madrid was in a similar situation right before Ronaldo left, they sell Ronaldo and then they just literally don't buy anyone for a while. If they are buying people, they're buying very young
Yep.
players like Vinicius from Brazil, but they're not spending. They build the revenue. They build the revenue. They work on the Bernabeu, and
It
they
was a tough
create
team in
essentially
the.
the
Sorry, go ahead.
no, they create the Mbappe fund, to get Mbappe. Didn't work out, but they were in debt, and then according to La Liga, they kind of got out of it just by just years of just not spending and just being patient with the money, and they weren't chasing Galacticos, and they got out of it. And they obviously Benzema helps, Modric helps. You have all these players that their prime just lengthened and lengthened and lengthened. It helps. Barca's not really in that situation. They have to keep buying and buying and buying to replenish the team because they just lost Messi. And so when you lose Messi and you have to replenish the team, it's a lot different. You have to invest a lot. And so I just don't know, how they're gonna get back to a decent financial
Mm-hmm.
position to where then if a Holland goes on the market or if
Right.
an Mbappe goes on the market, if one of the top five players in the world go on the market, Madrid and Barca have to be in the conversation. And right now, Madrid will be in the conversation, but Barca will not. They're struggling to to buy like players at 50 million right now. So if Mbappe came on the market right now, hypothetically for 200 million, Barca's not in the conversation, but Madrid are, and that's a problem because the best players in the world in the new age market are going to cost a ton of money.
Yeah, they just don't. They shouldn't. And it's almost like if they do compete for it, they almost like everyone else retains the idea like maybe you shouldn't. You should pull back a little bit because you are in debt so much. Hopefully they
That is
can.
what you and me said at the beginning of this window.
That's what we talked about a lot. We were kind of worried how you already made so much of an effort during the winter transfer, and then to push so hard on this summer, how is this going to affect you later? Let's say you have success in tournaments. It'll be such a plus to be after a year or after the new age, because technically this is a new age. After a half a season into the new age, you finish 2022, 2023 with some type of trophy. Regardless of the competition, whether they're champions, if they descend to Europa or Copa del Rey, La Liga, there's various of titles that we can possibly achieve here. If it goes to that route, okay. But now what happens financially? Do we keep investing? Do we keep putting more players in? Can more players even come in? What happens when other players want to leave? I'm sure at some point it might happen this way where a potential player that does have the backing, they can't retain everybody. The only thing that it's most likable is that the brand itself is so strong, and that's what's happening. That's how a club like this retains so long, right? It's such a known brand that even if it's in ruins, it still has the power to convince people to come over. That's why Rafinha probably didn't go to somewhere else. He could have gone to a Premiership club and easily compete in their first team and stuff like that. But because of how the brand works, of how Barca's so big in terms of traditional aspect, and also in how it's just so known like this way, you're not going to say no. You want to go. So hopefully other deals come in with them. Hopefully they don't make absurd deals like how we talk about these TV rights. They also made a deal with Spotify that's record to be close to 300 million euros. So we're talking about a lot of money that's being played here as well to try to see how they can recover back. Even in that 4-year deal with Spotify,
they're definitely going to be selling a lot of things involved with the club now.
Right.
You could weren't Barca one of the last ones to put a shirt sponsor on?
A kit sponsor, correct? And it was UNICEF.
So yeah, this is completely different. Like they're going to be at the door of everyone and be like, hey, you want to sponsor this? You want to sponsor that? You want to be the official sponsor of this? And so that's the price you pay, then that's the price you pay. But even that, they're still going to have to do more.
Yeah. I want to move over to someone who doesn't care where they put their logo on. We can move over to back into the English side for a minute. Let's talk about United. I know you love talking about United in your own way because
they're so entertaining.
Because they're almost like a circus in itself. You think it's so. One day it goes from problematic. The next day they're winning 2 games, and then it just tanks. And then it goes back, and we do the same thing over again. And you have these high hopes. The media rises because they love United. English media loves playing United because it's such a big club, right? So what they love to do is encourage and talk about how, almost like help them out in a sort of way. With other clubs, it's a little bit more difficult because they don't really care as much. It doesn't bring as much revenue as United, right? Or anyone in the top 4, top 5. So coming into this preseason, United have had, someone could say, what of an interesting preseason. I was talking earlier to someone else when I was I think it was at the gym or something, and this guy was talking about how he was a United fan, and I was like, well, I really hope for your success in the next season. But to be honest with you, I think in this preseason you can see some of the changes, maybe not in the squad, because I'm still hesitant to even say it could be a good season overall. You can only say the wins that they've had, right? It's not that they're insignificant. For instance, having a 4-0 win to Liverpool, 4-1 to Melbourne victory, 3-1 to Crystal Palace, and then they fall kind of short today against Aston Villa. Okay, so they tied the last game, but overall a successful preseason. It seems there's a lot of regimens that are being in place. I read a couple of things. I'll list off to you. In certain game weeks, there's no drinking. They can't have their personal chefs cook their meals. There will be a planned out meal prep basically for them by the club's chef. And there's things like that are changing the aspect. If media gets leaked out, then they'll find out who it is and they'll suspend them from the first team. Being late is a completely and utterly the worst thing you could possibly do. You'll be immediately kicked out, no matter who you are, how your importance in the team itself. There's a lot of these things being in place, reportedly, right? Is this enough that you can see a change in the team's aspect, not only in their attitude, right, but as a team itself to be literally united?
No,
So you think
because
at all this is just 100%? You'll come
it
into
can
next
help.
season and then not enough.
It can help, but it's not enough. Because Fito, what's the expectation for Manchester United as a club?
Uh, as a club in general, to win the league,
And
it's not gonna happen.
exactly.
We can
So
laugh about
there
it,
you go.
but
There you
yeah,
go. When I talk about United, I ain't talking about top four. I ain't talking about top three. I'm talking about go beat Liverpool, go beat Manchester City, who are your city rivals, who have completely taken over your city the last decade, and win the league like you should, because you make the most money out of any club in the world, bar probably Real Madrid, and you should be there. They are so far off that I don't care what Eric Ten Hag does, and I like Eric Ten Hag. Eric Ten Hag. I think he's a good manager. But United, the reason why United are so fascinating is because it's a special situation. One of the greatest managers of all time came to United and said finishing second was his greatest achievement, and he wasn't lying. So, and if none of you know who I'm talking about, that's Jose Mourinho. So the thing about United is, yeah, you can implement all these, don't drink, that should already be known. The chef thing's a little bit weird, but okay. But none of it, okay. So we have all this in place, and what if Ronaldo leaves? Which is
what if
very
he
likely to
leaves
happen right now. Okay, so then you have Anthony Martial, who was basically on loan last
and they
season,
want him to stay?
and they want him to stay now, but then they have no one behind that. They can't sign a striker because no one wants to go to United. And the level we are talking about with United is Liverpool and City. They are not close. This is going to take multiple years, a lot of pain, and something from the board and the owners that I haven't seen yet. And that's the one thing that you didn't mention. Is like we're talking all about this the manager being, trying to implement this stuff, and that's great. The ownership has not shown the ambition. I watched a club bend to their knees against their rivals at home and lose like 5-0. I watched that. I
Hmm.
watched them give up. I watched City have 90% possession against them in the second half and just suffocate them to death.
Yeah.
This is a club that is so far away from what they're supposed to do. They needed, and Ralph Ragnar talked about this, they needed somewhere around 6 to 7 to 8 to even 10 new players coming in. They have 3. One is a young left back, one is Christian Eriksen, and one is Lissandro Martinez, which I think, Lissandro can be a good signing, but that's 3. We need more. And we'll talk about the De Jong signing in a second, but and you possibly could be losing Ronaldo. This will not be fixed this season. It will not be fixed next season. And unfortunately, and I think United fans know this, unfortunately, they are in for a long process that's going to take many windows and many years. And Ten Hag's going to have to really drill his system, raise some of the younger players there, make Jadon Sancho into the superstar talent that he can be, get everything he can out of Bruno, who by the time this process might even be completed, Bruno might be towards the end of his career. This is going to take a very long time, and no one should have any expectations really. And that's kind of the saddest thing, is that we, heading into last season, everyone said United can compete for the title, especially when they signed Ronaldo and they had Varane,
A lot of people
and
did.
everyone was like, I was saying it myself. I was like, they should be there with City and Liverpool. And now we come into this season, and basically you can just give them a pass. It's like, we don't expect you to qualify for Champions League. We don't expect you to really do anything. We expect you to be the circus show that you are. And that's the saddest thing you can say about the biggest club in England by a country mile. And so
Well, I have a question.
that's kind of where they are.
Why do you think United can't do a similar path to what Arsenal did to come back in terms of ownership, in terms of to see, okay, as an ownership group, we need to actually do something. This actually works if we do something.
Yeah.
As it sounds now, I feel like as a general consensus, most Arsenal fans are content with what Kroenke himself is doing. It seems like there's an investment in the club in general. It seems they're listening to what the manager wants, what the sporting director wants, what the fans wants. As a whole, it seems like a more united Arsenal. Somewhere where like the fans are backed by board and board is backed by fans, and together there's an understanding. And sometimes everyone knew it was going to be a rough season but it always seemed like this is projecting to something.
Yeah,
What's going to take for United to be that way?
uh, it's going to be a little bit harder, which is crazy to me because I mean the Kroenkes they're notoriously not had a very good reputation, but the Glazers literally take money out of the club. I think United fans all know this. They have a dividend. Gary Neville talks about this all the time. Dividends of around, what is it, 12 million per year. Now that might not be really much to a club like United who makes so much money. And they do spend so much money. They spent $1 billion in the last decade.
It's ridiculous.
The issue is, and yes, this is kind of a weird thing to say, but I think the fans know this, that they will have to go through this process and it's going to take a while. But United have to humble themselves and realize we can't, because they've been trying this for the last 6 years, we can't spend our way out of this. It's not going to work. We need some sort of direction. Now, let's give the Kroenkes credit when it comes to Arsenal. The Kroenkes, when they say they took over Arsenal around 2018. Now, they had a lot more say in it, but apparently they didn't want to do anything until they had 100% control. Once that happened, then, Wenger left and they had to figure out the hierarchy. So they put Vinay as CEO, they put Edu as the technical director, and they have Arteta as the manager. The Kroenkes across all of their sports, and the reason I'm talking about all their sports is because the Glazers are also American. They also have other, like they own the Buccaneers, who just won the Super Bowl like 2 years ago. The Kroenkes are hands-off owners, which means they leave the executives alone, basically, and they just say, you guys run the ship. When it comes to funding, come to us. We'll sign off on it. That's what they do. They do it with the Rams. They do it with the Nuggets. They do it with everyone. The Glazers they are hands-off, but in a worse way. What I mean by that is they don't have the expertise in sport to understand who to hire. That's their biggest issue right now. The issue at United is there is not a person and or multiple people leading the ship. Mm-hmm. So that's we've been talking about what was Ed Woodward that just left. Yeah. He was getting blamed for years about all this nonsense, but he was never a sports executive. He was someone that was working in the banks and stuff. So this isn't someone that should be making decisions for your football club. They have Richard Garlick there now, who I think is the CEO. And these guys were just put in a position, so maybe we have to give them a year or 2 or 3 to see what they do. But it all comes down to the Glazers need to be those hands-off owners like they always are, but the hands-off owners that actually want to see the club succeed and give whatever funding or benefits they need to give to their executives. So there has to be a common direction from the executive, the manager, and the board. That link right now is broken. We have to wait and see if that can come together. That's my worry. I think Erik ten Hag's a good manager, but can Erik ten Hag communicate with the board and the executives and the owners to say, hey, I want this, or we should do this, let's go do it? And I think we should talk about the Frankie de Jong situation here, because this is something where it clearly shows there's no leadership or direction at this club. So they just hire Erik ten Hag. Okay, yep. Erik, who do you want? See, at Arsenal, this wouldn't happen. At Arsenal, hire Mikel Arteta, right? It's Edu who's in charge. Edu's like, okay, Mikel, what do you think about these signings? It's not, hey, Erik, who do you want to bring in? Tell us, and we will try and go get them. There's a very clear difference there. And that difference means so much in terms of, the hierarchy. Pep Guardiola doesn't go to the Manchester City board and say, I want this player, give him to me now. That's not how it works. I forgot his name. He showed up in the All or Nothing documentary, the Manchester City, not CEO, but is he the CEO? The main exec. He's a really smart, intelligent man. But he's the one who controls all the sporting decisions. Like, hey, Pep, we're looking at this. What do you think? We're looking at this. And it's a team effort.
Right,
Manchester United do not have this.
between the sporting director, between their executive, between the manager, they make a collective bubble of what players they want around this. I want a type of player that's like this. Can you find something that I want like this?
Yeah, and at United, it is simply it came to we're gonna hire you, Erik ten Hag. Who do you want? Of course, Erik ten Hag, without much time to scout, because I don't know what United's scouting department is doing right now. He's like, okay, let me find players that I trust. Okay, Frankie De Jong. Let's look at all my Ajax former players and try to get them. Okay, but we are towards the beginning of August, and I this club is. I'm not. I want to point out I am not a fan of Manchester United, and they stress me out by how idiotic some of their decisions are. Which I should be celebrating because I'm an Arsenal fan, guys. I should be celebrating United's downfall, and I genuinely listen to Mark Goldbridge in the United Stand most mornings because I like to laugh and somewhat cry when they're really just depressed about their situation. It's incredible to me. They are going after a player who on multiple occasions has told them, I don't want to join your club. I'm at the biggest club in the world. I'm at Barcelona. I want to stay. I want to stay. I want to stay. He's told you that multiple times, and you're still trying to get him. Even if he does come, let's say 10-20% chance.
The attitude's just not there.
He's not going to want to play for you. He has shown no indication he wants to come to your city. This is embarrassing. It's really hurting Manchester United's reputation. If it wasn't already hurt already, this is hurting their reputation with this single transfer of trying to get Frankie De Jong. They don't have a backup plan. They don't know who else to get. They need to get multiple players. You can't just rely on McFred in the midfield. You just lost Pogba. You just lost Matic. You need multiple midfielders, and you're just here just waiting. We're almost in August, and we're still waiting on Frankie De Jong. Who is your backup plan? Is there a backup plan? There's just going to be another short-term signing. I saw this happen at Arsenal, and yes, we will compare in the future United and Arsenal because they had very similar paths. But United's on like a longer path. It's gone through more little weird stuff once Sir Alex Ferguson left.
Mm-hmm.
Wenger left a few years after that, but Arsenal are back on. They're on the right track. They have a ton of young players, a young manager, clear cohesion, clear plan, and they are finally ran the way I want them to be run, which is keep everything indoors, don't let leaks get out, keep it private, keep it in just let's do our business. Let's set up the plan, do it. That's what Arsenal are now. United have to get to that. And if they do, they will be better than Arsenal because they have so much revenue and such a massive club reputation. They can attract the best players in the world. But at this current moment, the best players in the world look at Manchester United and it's not even a thought in their mind to go. That is just one of the saddest things I can say about them. They have so much work to do.
It's so complicated because you think so many players recently left between Matic, Cavani, Pogba, Jesse Lingard, Juan Mata, Dean Henderson, and you're just looking at this list of like out, and okay, what is the interest of coming in? 3 players, 3 top listings have come in, and this is going to be the year.
We have to throw Ronaldo in there too because he's just not shown up. It's very clear from what Fabrizio Romano's saying that George Mendes is trying everything he can to get Ronaldo out. So we got to throw Ronaldo in that out section too, because even if he does come back, what's his mentality? What does he want to be there? Does he want to play Europa League?
I'll put my opinion actually for this case. I think Ronaldo wants to do something for United. I think United don't want to do anything for Ronaldo. So I think Cristiano needs to see that it's weird because this doesn't really happen much. Players don't really have that much power. But when we're talking about either him or Leo, we're talking about the biggest players of all time. So they have a lot of word, and it's in some sense it almost makes it understandable why they have so much leeway, even if they just. You see, some people can say, "Oh, but they should be just normal players." It's just not like that. We're talking about almost gods in the game. he doesn't see anything that's improving. I wouldn't see either. What am I going to do with three simple signings? What out of the three signings that they've made, uh, one you kind of know who already plays because he knows the league, and the other two are coming in from Netherlands, which is understandable. They're not. I'm not saying they're bad players. I'm saying they have potential to come up in this league. What I am saying is that it's just not enough to replace what it was. What wasn't really. It was almost a hollow of what Manchester United could have been. You know, in theory, in paper, from when if you look at the squad, right until the point where Mourinho had to leave, it was almost like the same squad, and with a couple of exceptions. But a lot of those players are hollow of themselves now. You know, they've gone on to other leagues or back to the other play. You know, Matic is now playing in Roma. Pogba went back to Juventus, and Cavani's still looking for a club. And we can talk about other players. Van de Beek did not have a good season at Everton, and he wanted the playing time so bad. So now he's going to try here with his old manager. So that's why maybe, and just rekindling fires doesn't mean that it's going to make sense at the end of the day. I think the club has so much more to go. The only, you know how, it's how you were saying, Milad. A club like this should be going for title wins, FA Cup wins, Champions League wins. Even if it can't always win them, they should be almost like 1-2, 1-2, 1-2. And not even a question about leaving Champions League. Last year, to not even be close to the aspect of staying in Champions League, abysmal. Just absolutely garbage
They
season.
gave up.
They
literally gave up.
So with that, you're thinking, okay, next season, what does it look like? And it almost feels like you want to do the same thing, except this year it's a rebuild, right? But why even try to rebuild like this? You could push so much higher. The potential is so much higher, even to contest it for top four. Let's say your minimal objective is to contest for top four. It doesn't even feel like that. It doesn't even feel like you want to win the Europa League either. You're the player that you have, the striker that you got last year at the last minute to come back and win trophies, wants to leave immediately because he feels like the enthusiasm isn't there as he thought it was. So now it's almost like he's regretting his past.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, maybe I'm being too harsh. Maybe me as a football fan, I have to accept that
The
Manchester,
reality.
I sit here and accept reality, and fans have to do this as well. Yes, I say they should be competing with Liverpool and City. Yes, that is the reputation of the club. That is how big the club is. That's where they should be doing it. That they make enough money, revenue to do it. But you can't shortcut this. There is no shortcutting this. There's no amount of money that you can spend that will shortcut this process. So, okay, maybe instead of comparing this club to Manchester City and Liverpool, I gotta take a step back and I gotta be like, okay, let's let Erik ten Hag do his work.
Let's compare to Tottenham.
And compare. Oh my God! Oh no! Oh no! United fans, I'm so sorry. Oh God, yes.
Winless.
Weren't there rumors before
Trophyless.
before Ronaldo signed that they were going to sign Harry Kane, but then Kane was focused on City, and then that didn't work out.
Now Kane is like almost probable to like something like Bayern, which is ridiculous. It's crazy how things just evolve like this.
It is just, and he won't go to Bayern. They won't let him go. But man, it is a fascinating club. I do take some enjoyment of it, watching them struggle. But I would like to see someone, whether it be a United legend, someone with power and authority, not just the manager, because Ten Hag has power and authority. We're seeing him in training, like say he was yelling at someone. He was like, "Fucking rubbish," and I'm just like sitting there laughing. That's what he's saying in like training, and that's fine. But they need someone at the top that makes the decisions on scouting and signing and just the direction of the football club. They need that voice again. And
there's only so much the manager can do in terms of the team, but the whole club needs to be directed in some way.
Yeah. that is what if Sir Alex was a manager, but he was the director, he was the main exec, he was everything about that club. And it is impossible to replace that. We know, but you gotta find someone. And I don't know if they can. That's the thing. The Glazers, let's not forget about them. This is a big problem. Can they find that person? It's their job. It's not. I say it's United's job. It's the Glazers' job. They own the club to find that executive to run their club.
Yeah.
So can they do that? I fully stand with and support all the United fans that want the Glazers out. I get it. I fully understand. Can they do it? We'll see how they are. But yeah, the expectation for United, not top four. See what they do. I hope they can have fun playing football again. It was sad watching them last season. If they can have fun playing football again, that's the first step. Then focus on the results after that. But right now, you just got to have fun again. Marcus Rashford, like, my God, I want to see him smile, please. Can he please smile again?
A young kid.
Like, Lord have mercy.
Not having his best time. It's funny because I remember, not me, but in general, like, people watch games, like the United games, and it's a 50-50. You flip a coin and see if you get a sad little 1-0 win or maybe a 3-1 win, and then you're like, this is it. And then next week you lose to a mid to bottom table club, and you're like, I gotta pick up the pace again, and it just keeps backflipping between both. So you never really can stay consistent on your prediction. And we're gonna move a little bit onto the other side. I wanna dabble on some of the upcoming things. You know, we have the leagues coming up in like 2 weeks. 2 weeks, I think 2 weeks.
I think 2 weeks.
Yeah. 2 weeks, yeah. One of the first, since we're already on this league, Liverpool versus City for your Community Shield. Your prediction?
I will go.
Doesn't have to be right, but what do you want?
I will go with Erling Haaland and Manchester City. I'd say 2. Actually, I thought it'd be an entertaining game. 3-2. 3-2 City.
Okay. I think 2-1 City. It's funny because it's hard to predict the Liverpool win against City right now when it's so stacked this way. They almost feel like intimidating. You know, not saying the Liverpool
they're pretty scary right now.
Not scary. You know, Darwin scored 4 goals in his preseason game, but City right now, it just feels scary. It feels like
Liverpool versus City games are always, like, to me, a toss up. They're great games to watch, and there's so much intensity. The quality is just incredible. It genuinely looks and feels like a different game when those two play. So yeah, of course Liverpool can win. I'm not saying here like Liverpool can't win. Yeah. They can of course win. City have a very obvious weakness right now since they just sold Zinchenko. They were playing a teenager at left back today in their preseason game against Bayern. They are trying to get Cucurella, but Cucurella won't be in time for the Community Shield game. So you get if Mohamed Salah is fit. I don't know if he is, but if he is, get him running whoever City's going to play at left back and try to just have them have a nightmare. There's a weakness there, but yeah, that City team is just such a well-oiled machine. But you know there is hope for Liverpool because it will take City some time. De Bruyne has to really get on the same page with Haaland. We got integrate Julian Alvarez into the picture. There's no more Raheem Sterling. There's no more Gabriel Jesus. So it's a refresh, and it'll take a few weeks for City to get up to par. And because Liverpool are really just kind of putting Nunez in the equation, if he can get going right away, and he looks like he has, then maybe it'll just be they're clicking better than City on that day. Mm-hmm. But I can't go against, Erling Haaland and Pep Guardiola and De Bruyne. I can't do it.
What do you think? Let's move on to a different nation, Germany, into Leipzig versus Bayern for the German Super Cup. Now, I know what you're going to say. I mean, Bayern are obviously more than clear favorites. What my question was not more of who would win, but like, do you feel Sadio's adjustment to Bayern's life is now more suitable now that someone like Robert isn't there, or do you think it makes it a little bit more harder?
No, I actually think it makes it a little bit harder. I think Sadio's not an out and out striker. He will. I think he would have enjoyed playing with Lewandowski. Now, Bayern. So this is going to be really interesting. I think Sadio is going to do really well. I mean, we both know. For those of you that don't know, me and Fito have always been very, very high on
I
Sadio
love that
Mane.
guy.
We honestly, I'm saying this no jokes. We know Mohamed Salah gets all the love, but for the last 4 years, I thought Sadio Mane was the best player at
It's
Liverpool.
just a worth
You know,
ethic.
the whole Bauer kid. I'm not kidding you. Sadio Mane, he's the best in the world. I swear, swear down. No, he was an incredible player. And he wanted to go, so and I think
He
there will
deserved
be
it.
no issue, blending in at Bayern. But I don't want him just, him and Serge Gnabry on the other side. They need to find someone in the middle that can hog up some space like Lewa did. You know, the Bayern CEO is talking very kindly about Harry Kane. I don't know. I don't think it's possible because they just won't sell it to Bayern, and Bayern will never spend that type of money. That would have to bring in Harry Kane. But
And it's not just him. It's most of the club are talking about Harry Kane recently, and It's almost like they're almost predicting for a
they
future
keep
investment,
mentioning it.
and
Like
it's
every other day, I
yeah,
notice like the news. There's like, well, Harry Kane's a fantastic player, and then 3 days later, yeah, that Harry Kane guy,
it's
he's
just so
expensive,
hard
but
to see an
he's a
English
great player. I'm
player,
just like,
and especially in the position like a ten to nine, well, to false 10, play like and to replace a Robert position, right? I'm not saying that Kane wouldn't do bad in the Bundesliga. It's just a sense f- to move to foreign leagues as an English player. Most of the times you have like in Dortmund wise, right? Uh, I just don't see, for instance, that position being so well put. I feel that Bayern as a whole should look for a clinical striker like Harry Kane is, but that's more suited already in the. What they like to do is find someone that's already in the Bundesliga well established. If there's not someone there, then I think it would be best to move somewhere between La Liga, Serie A, in my opinion, to like move on to those. It could also
don't you
be
think they
in League
kind of
One.
waited a little bit too long though? The
Yeah, for
striker
sure.
market's already kind of.
No, I think they're going to start the season without a striker. I think it's going to be. You
Yeah.
remember how City was when Aguero left? Basically last year, right? It's something they didn't even start Gabriel Jesus and to be a striker. At one point, they just decided to like flip between false nines. I think that's what's going to happen
Yeah.
at Bayern because they
Well,
don't have
I think
anything like
towards
that.
the end of the window, you're going to hear the rumors of Harry Kane to Bayern. They're going to try. They're going to try and pressure
Oh man,
Harry Kane into telling Tottenham like they're gonna try everything they can to get Harry Kane to go to Tottenham and be like, guys, I love you, I love Conte, but Bayern really want me, and I just want to go win. That's their only chance is that Harry Kane has to force the move, and I just don't see that happening because Harry Kane just had one of his best seasons with Son, and Tottenham's on the up with Conte, and you know, other than Kane, yeah, I don't see a striker. We're talking about that has to be the level of quality for Bayern Munich. Yeah, it's just not there in the market. I
if
don't
we're
see
talking
it.
about players that play those positions, in terms of high up, right? Like Mane, Gnabry, Coman, Sane, and Choupo-Moting is a striker, but he's a backup striker. That's his role in Bayern for the most part. I think even he understands that part. He's not a main striker like how Lewandowski is. And it's gonna be. Are they gonna how you're saying? Are they gonna find someone to replace that position at the end, towards the end, after like pushing, like starting to like sew up little bits of news to feed it to everyone, and then in the last minute, like put it all together to put this piece, or are they just gonna not play it out?
I mean, they might wait for Christopher and Cuckoo next year. It's possible.
I would like
I
that.
mean,
That's a good like
Nagelsmann and
player.
Nkuku, it's 60 million release clause. He just signed a new contract this summer. He is going next summer. There's going to be every club in the world will go after him as long as
Brilliant,
he has another great
brilliant kid.
season. So, do you just? I mean, can you go an entire season without a striker and just say we'll go sign in Cuckoo for 60 million next
Or do
year?
you wait till winter?
Do you wait till winter? Get a loan player? I don't know. It's a tough situation. If they can get Harry Kane, go get Harry Kane. I don't think they can. So after that, I just don't know what you can do. And if I was them, I would. Man, Julian has a tough job. Figure it. Yeah, they're gonna try to go the city route and just figure it out.
And then wait
Really,
for
like
someone.
right now, like you start pushing, you start trying to get to the agents of Christopher and Cuckoo, and you're like, hey, you love Germany, right? You're having a great time here. Come play for us.
Well, I mean,
You
that
can win
happens.
everything.
Like, think about it, for instance. That's why Holland made it to City, because so much linkage from such a long time. It was almost, the other clubs kind of gave up.
Yeah,
Because I'm sure Bayern and Barcelona were also in this line, but they just didn't want to invest so hard on Erling. Uh, by the time that it was already done, you already knew it was. He wasn't even signed yet. It was like you already knew he was there because it was already too late. So I think it's gonna be how you said. You start talking now, so that way by the end of the next season, you already know he's a player of your team.
it's gonna be a one hot property. That is one great player.
I think
He's
so
gonna
as
be he's
well.
gonna be a star for France.
I
Yeah,
hope
he's gonna
so.
have a great World Cup.
All right, so I think we're gonna close it there. If you listen in, I appreciate it so much. I think next episode we can talk a little bit closer about the more leagues. I want to talk about also about how France is doing, Italy, and maybe even the lower leagues in that aspect. Just in general, what's going on, because we're getting closer to the start of the season, the European campaign, with the ever impending World Cup coming up, and it's going to be a tough campaign, and we know it. So I want to get into those types of conversations. We'll bring more to the table when it gets closer to that end. So next week will definitely be after the Community Shield play, and then that'll be the last week before probably the official start of the season. Yeah, to be honest with you. So we'll have a
I'll do
lot
some
to cover.
predictions next week.
Yeah, we have to definitely talk about who we think is going to do well in the first week, not just in Premiership. Let's try to talk. We'll try to discuss and be more diverse in terms of Europe. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.
Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye.